NASDAQ regained 1.25%, 63 points, finished at 5,005. The S&P 500 added 1%, 22 points, closed at 2108. For the week, sadly, no happy music there. The Dow off 0.3%, the NASDAQ down 1.7%, the S&P 500 erased half of 1%. Market hunters had a heyday with some marked down tech stocks, relatively speaking on the markdown, that is. Demand for Apple shares pushed the price up more than 3% today. Shoppers also scooped up a battered Yelp, boosting their...
I lifted it up once.
Oh, man!
He's not looking so happy that I missed all the exciting parts.
It's okay, man. We're going to do it one more time, so.
At least.
Oops. Should I kill the water for you? Make it a little easier?
I'm sorry, I pressed the button and it stopped working. It didn't start working.
It's back on there.
Oh, it's on? All right.
It's back on.
See what you got.
Just don't turn on too. What I'm doing here is I've got my hand in the cold water so I don't pee in bed, I think is how that works. And then from here, the cold water.
That's the coil.
This is the coil. This is one of the two coils.
Right. And it's
so hose water's coming in.
Hose water's coming in.
Coming in, going through the coil, getting nice and cooler, and then goes down there, and up here, and down into here, into which there's another coil in that bad boy, which you can't see, and it is now sucking the heat out of all of this wort, and then it's coming up through here, and down that hose, and into Carl's pool.
Excellent.
That's exactly what we want. And we're
Clever water resource management as well as beer.
Yes.
Can you scoot over just a little bit?
You're about to transfer the wort to the fermenter.
Just a hair.
Righto?
You know, and if you've ever had your wort transferred to a fermenter, you know how painful that can be.
Hey, there's
A good grip of it so you can drain it.
okay, we're gonna take. Are you going?
That top.
Which way are you heading
Just
with it?
want to make sure. You know. Anyway, so here we're taking.
Probably want to get it out of there.
taking this shit out of here now. This is wheat grains, right?
And maggots. There's a lot of maggots.
Okay,
in
it's
this
getting real hot.
Actually, it's just Wheaties.
Wheaties and maggots.
Don't lose the dripping
Just let it
stuff.
drip in.
Yeah, boy, that's really hot.
Yeah. 170 odd degrees.
Hot as hell.
Grant.
Expecting it to be going faster with that ice water.
Up till now, and I think we just sort of hit the last.
Don't touch it, he's sterile.
The patient is ready, doctor. Well, maybe 2 fingers of them are sterile.
Just that the doctor was not patient.
All right. Bucko.
Well, what I'm looking for is a nice wort at below 80 degrees, I believe it is. You know,
Does that mean
I get around
Fahrenheit?
72 Fahrenheit. Yeah, I haven't quite done the Celsius conversion yet.
It's a serious speaker.
And then they.
Plus the Ajax plus yellow.
Yeah, it's claiming it's 68.
And then it also.
Oh, really? So between that and this, we're fine.
cable.
Yeah.
So we're going to a boil here.
I was just going to say, it claims. I stuck my finger in here and I'm like,
Oh,
Yes,
it's cool.
everything for.
That's the kind
So
of
how long do we cook it at a boil?
I wouldn't have even stuck that thermometer in there without sterilizing it.
sorry. Well, it'll be my own finger then.
We're boiling. How long do we boil it?
So now we kill the heat and we have to
So do we just transfer this?
Okay, we kill the heat and
Or
add
actually add your stuff.
the malt. Okay.
It's about to get very
This is what the beer's going to look like in a few more weeks, from a different perspective.
That's right. Same size hose.
Actually, same perspective.
Yeah, same perspective. Seems like kind of a waste, huh?
Got a long hose there, Ron.
Well, you know what they say. It's not what you, how long it is. It's what you do with it.
And this is the
I can
the malt.
I can
And this is
swing my hose around.
this is ultralight malt extract. It's the lightest color available, and a delicate, delicious malt. For the perfect malt extract for any style of beer. We're making an IPA, but that's determined more by the hops, right?
Everything he said was absolutely correct.
He was just making it up.
This is the lightest malt available. It is perfect for any style of beer.
It's basically sugar.
Yeah.
Well, it's barley that's been roasted and decomposed from its granular state, you know, breaking down the sugars.
Right. So if you want, you could even make a porter with this just by changing the tea bag grains.
Yeah, I did the same thing, Rich. Only I got it all over my face.
It's honey.
Yeah, it looks like honey. Doesn't
Tastes like honey.
it? Yeah.
You could probably use honey for part of that.
Where's the garbage for the guy? Because that's
Actually, there's no chance you couldn't use honey for part of that.
Back here.
Yeah, you can put honey in beer. Honey
Yeah.
beer.
Oh yeah. Look at it. I mean, it's honey. You
It
taste
has a
that
lot
shit.
in
It's
common
honey.
with honey.
It's honey. It's the same consistency, same color, same
Oh.
texture.
Except it hasn't come
Oh,
out
for
of
the-
a bee's mouth. And that's a big
Yeah,
difference.
but no, the yabat is that they certainly,
So do we want the good sludgy stuff? Or
they
not?
certainly
No, not really, but
can use
they
that.
say don't bother straining.
Why not just?
Mark.
Go.
So right now what we're doing is we're basically blowing bubbles into the wort. So if we had a 4-year-old and a crazy straw, we wouldn't have to have this Petco pump, air pump, which is blowing air into the tank here. But like I said, if we had a small child and a crazy straw, we'd be all set. And we're also at this point going to add the yeast,
Oh.
which is what we forgot to mention while we were blowing bubbles
Okay.
for about a half an hour.
All right. Show me the yeast, man.
I have no idea where the yeast is.
Yeah, I'll grab that. So let's just tray here.
And we don't have to like pre-mix the yeast or anything like on bread. It's just do it.
Yep. So it's direct pitchable. You can do those things. Like you can rehydrate the yeast. It is a good practice, but it's not mandatory.
Man, that's smelling good. Okay, so that's the yeast.
Yeah, it's
It's the yeast we can do.
yeah.
Regulator. So this just screws on. This is how you actually adjust the amount of pressure. So here's your gas line. Gas lines are always going to be white or gray. So that goes to the in. You can see it says in right here.
Gas in.
Gas in, and then you have your tap, which is this guy, and then this is beer out. And
Beer out to the picnic tap.
yep.
Okay, so how many days does it look like this? At 66 degrees, right?
Yeah, so when you get the beer in here, don't even plug this one in. Just plug this in. Leave it there for. You really should leave it there for a week. 2 weeks.
Carbonized for a week.
Yeah, 2 weeks is even better because it'll actually things will start to settle.
Per tank.
Yeah, per keg.
Okay.
So and also when you fill these guys up, it's actually a good idea to, even if you are just storing one, to purge it with CO2. So hook it up, even if you're gonna just put it away and not in the refrigerator. Put this gas on here, let it pressurize, and then you can pull this thing, and this will vent. So just do that a couple of times, and it'll just vent out all the oxygen. So that way you'll
Okay.
have, and at that point you can store beer in here pretty much indefinitely.
Okay. And after a week on carbonation, then what?
Then it's pretty much ready to drink.
Put it in the cooler fridge to
Yep.
just drink it.
Actually, it should be in the when you do the carbonation, it needs to be in the serving fridge.
Oh, okay.
So
you
it's
don't
got
want to move it afterwards?
well, no, it's got it won't carbonate correctly if it's not cold.
Oh, okay.
So if you try to carbonate, the warmer it is, the higher the pressure has to be, because there's like a ratio based on gas uptake.
All
So
right, so
the
what
be- the be-
pressures do I look for here?
So this is, I believe you set it at 12 pounds. Basically what you want to do is plug your beer in here, and when it's coming out at a good rate, that's really the right pressure. So when you feel like you've got a good flow rate, then the beer will carbonate in behind it.
Oh, so you drain some to check the pressure.
Yeah, it's just like you want to get a good serving pressure.
Yeah.
And so the interesting thing is, there's because of the size of the length of this hose, there's resistance built up in here.
Yeah.
So like you can have 12 pounds of pressure in here, but when it comes out the end, it might be 2 or 3 pounds at this point.
Wow, really?
So it's there's another formula on how that works, but so you don't want it. You want to make sure that this is a good length for this, and you want to make sure it stays that way. Even if you change the end, like you might go, why do I have all of this, you know, in my refrigerator? And it's like you actually need it because it's actually it's creating enough resistance so that the beer in here can carbonate, and when it comes out of here, it's not like coming out like a rocket.
Yeah, okay.
So
Okay. the water and drain it out of the fermenter and put it into the keg, right? And then I hook up the carbon dioxide to that side.
Yep.
And I turn the carbon dioxide on with that top clipped into place.
Yes.
So I carbonate, I pressurize it, and then I pop the relief valve a couple of times, that little small valve in the middle. I pop that a couple times and get the oxygen out of the top of the tank. The carbon dioxide is, lower.
Yep.
Right.
At that point, your beer is basically archived.
Yeah.
So it's
okay. And I have a whole setup like that with the valve, and I use. How do I set the pressure?
So you turn this knob.
And there's an index there?
Yeah, so this thing will start to turn.
Okay, and he's got it at like...
So one thing to note though is when you have this inside the refrigerator, the gauges are kind of erroneous. So you you just kind of need to get, but once you get it dialed in, like you should really never have to touch this again. So once you find the
and that's for serving and everything.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be the same for everything that you're doing.
Okay.
First thing to remember is if you have the gas on, this thing has to remain upright. If it falls over, you probably ruined your regulator. So if the gas is off, it's fine.
You can store it any old way.
Right, but as soon as that gas is on and these gauges are flipped up, then you got to keep this thing upright. Most kegerators, they actually have it like bolted to the side. Something else I was thinking, you could actually get a couple of those big, kind of like the big pipe clamps.
Yeah.
And hook two of them together and make a figure 8 and hook this thing to this thing.
Yep.
And then that way they would be lashed together, and that way they're not going to fall over.
Or maybe a zip tie.
Yeah, actually zip tie would do the same thing.
Yeah, zip tie between here and here.
Yeah. Just whatever it takes to keep it
bungee
from...
cord, okay.
Duct tape.
Duct tape, of course.
So I just turned the gas on. You do want to like check for CO2 leaks. So I would try pouring a little water on there, see if you've got any bubbles going or anything. Remember, you can't turn it over or dip it under water like this.
Yeah.
You're gonna have that inclination. So that looks pretty good to me. I don't see anything.
If you have any, what do? Just pry and...
Did you just tighten it up a little bit more?
Oh.
So the first thing I would do is, for you guys, is turn this thing all the way down. And you'll notice you're turning it down, but the gauge isn't moving. It's because there's pressure in the hose. So you can just give it one of those numbers. So you just push that little thing in there down, and it lets the gas out.
So
right is open, left is closed.
See it plus?
Oh yeah.
Gives it more.
Yep.
So you turn it all the way.
Oh, something else to notice is when you push it in, it locks. And they come like that. So when you actually want to adjust it, you've got to pull it out first.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, you're going to be like, it doesn't turn. So pull it out.
So it's child safety cat.
It's basically, yeah. I think it's really just so that, when you get it dialed in, you can just kind of lock it in place and not mess with it. So what I would do for you guys is...
You turn it all the way off just now, right?
Yeah, I turn it down to 0.
Okay, and then you pop this to bleed the line.
Yep, to bleed the line. So, also this is another shutoff valve. If you're not using it, just turn that up, and and that will that way if there's any leakage anywhere else in the line, that'll stop all that. So it just kind of seals you off. Probably should have turned that, but it'll be all right.
I see the problem there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you're gonna do a new keg, first thing I would do is you just pop this guy open, and it'll bleed any pressure in here. You don't want gas going back. Like if there's more pressure in here, because sometimes it can actually, like if you filled your kegs up too high, and you got the gas in, there's a little tiny downspout, and if that's dipping in the beer and you have reverse pressure, then you'll blow beer up the lines. So first thing is don't overfill your kegs. And then just make sure that you try to have more pressure in here than you do in here. So just release this usually before you hook it up. So this would be your gas in. It's labeled. It's labeled right here on the plastic.
Oh, it has a big in.
Yep.
That helps.
In and out.
In and out.
So you hook that on there like that, and this is going to be your beer out. you hook that. So right now there's no pressure in the system. So what I would recommend doing is just turn this thing up. So you hear it starting to pressurize now?
Yeah.
So what I would do is, till you feel like you got a pretty good stream of, see that's actually not too bad serving.
Don't do that on the floor.
Yeah.
In this case, you just have water in there.
Yeah, and I would actually start like that. Set your do exactly what I'm doing here.
Oh, practice once with water.
With water, just to kind of way you can check for leaks, and you don't care, you're not ruining any beer.
Yeah.
So that way you can.
Got it.
So feel like you got a pretty good. I might go a little higher than that. But.
And you might be at what's that?
So, like you're gonna be constantly screwing with this for the first few batches, but this will get you into a reasonable range. So that way you're not like, you'll start to notice, oh, the beer. So if it's too low, you're going to realize that your beer is slowly going flat because you don't have enough pressure in here to keep
gotcha.
carbonation up. Keep carbonation up, yeah.
Gotcha.
So and if you got it too high, you're going to be like, oh man, this beer is awfully foamy. So that's how you'll start to find the sweet spot, and just tweak it a little bit, and it'll take you a little while. So just don't do any big changes, and just start to kind of. But this should be a pretty good range for you.
Okay. Now, what if you want to take the system apart? Show us the correct way to shut this down.
Okay. Well, I usually take I usually disassemble it backwards. Right. So first thing, take the beer line off.
Okay.
Then you can take this guy off. Now your keg's out of the system, so you can get that out of the way.
And it's full of pressure. It's whatever pressure you were last at.
Yes. Yes. So
gotcha.
So now if we.
A beer bolus.
And do you want to do that with when you have beer in there? You want to
get back in the sun, so I'm trying to dry it out.
So you want to keep that beer under pressure.
Okay.
Wow. So otherwise it's gonna.
Okay. This is
the first thing I would have done is done this switch.
Oh.
And then I would have taken the whole thing apart.
Oh, okay, got it.
If I was thinking straight, that's what I would have done.
Okay.
So then if you want to take the whole thing apart, you turn this guy to close.
Yeah.
Make sure I got that closed. And now actually I would just get the gas out of the.
Sure. Yeah, bleed the line.
Yep.
And now you could lay it down if you wanted to.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So why does the regular? Never mind.
And then you just take this apart with a crescent wrench.
Okay, got it. Right.
So after you get done fermenting, and you transfer from your fermenter into here, you close it up, and what I would do is put this on CO2 pressure for a couple minutes. You'll hear it pressurize, and I would vent it a few times. That'll help to purge some of the oxygen out of there. That way it's a CO2 purge.
CO2.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
So that's just good for storing your beer. So there's no oxygen. So that won't carbonate your beer necessarily, but it will at least that way you can kind of put the beer aside and it'll last that way.
Could I interrupt for something?
So if you're gonna find like if you finish a keg and you don't have another one lined up, you're gonna have beer in these lines. You're gonna want to get that out of there because the beer will foam and then it'll dry, and then you get what's called beer stone. It's basically dried beer foam in your lines, and it's just they're clogged up, and they're kind of janky at that point.
So clearing the line.
So it's this is actually exactly what I would do is just fill up your keg with a little bit of water like we just did, and just flush the whole thing out with water.
Sure.
Or sanitizing solution works nicely too.
Oh yeah.
Especially if you have like so I recommend you actually just keep a bucket of sanitizing solution around. Just get a Home Depot bucket with a lid. Mix up a 5-gallon batch. It lasts for months. You can use it for all kinds of things. I keep a spray bottle of it in the kitchen. I said, I sanitize the kitchen counters with it. Just pretty much anything that is dirty you can use for that.
Super.
Yeah.
No shower?
Just figure out how you want it to go in. Turn it 90 degrees. Either way, it doesn't matter for these.
Then rotate.
Yep, drop it in. Rotate it back. You'll find that they don't want to necessarily sit right. You can put a little water on them to get them wet. That'll help it. Also, they have this stuff called keg lube. It's a silicone grease. Yeah.
This whole thing, if you take it out of context,
Yeah.
wet it a little bit, it might not want to go in. Hate to point out the usual 6th grade obvious, but yeah.
So something else I'll do is I put a little pressure on this one to kind of get it to rock back a little bit. So you kind of want it to come up straight, not get cockeyed.
Oh, so that helps keep it, just a little. There we go.
Yeah. So then when you snap it into place. If you're ever not sure about it, just put it under a little pressure on it.
See if it sizzles.
Yeah. And sometimes that'll kind of get it to also come into place.
Got it.
So your carbonation, your forced carbonation pressure and your serving pressure are the same.
Right. So if you start off with water.
You start off with water, you get the pace, you go, okay, got it.
Yeah.
You note the little whatever it is there,
Right.
then you fill it with beer, and then you get to that same level and you stop and you go away and you let it do what it does.
So you'll probably read online about people who jack the pressure way up to force carbonate faster, and you're going to read about people shaking the kegs and all kinds of stuff like that. It's all very unpredictable. I mean, it helps.
Yeah, at that point it becomes just
like you don't really know what's going on.
Right. Talk about timing, Brian.
From ferment for the whole timing?
Yeah. Just run through the whole thing.
Okay, so after you get done making the wort, you start fermenting. You'll actually find that active fermentation takes about 1 week. That's when you're going to see bubbles in your airlock. Then you can then it's going to slow down. You're going to stop seeing the bubbles, but things are still happening. So you're going to want to go another 2 weeks or so from there.
So a total of 3 weeks or so?
3 weeks for fermentation cycle. After you can actually choose to change. We'll talk about that later.
Fewest words possible.
Yeah.
Okay, then you transfer the wort into this thing after you work it all out with a water system first, getting the flow pressure.
That's right. Once
here.
you got it all dialed in.
Okay, so this is after 3 weeks. We're putting the beer in here.
Beer goes
putting it on carbonation, putting it at serving temperature.
Serving pressure. In the beginning, do a purge. So pressurize it and pull up your the release valve a couple times.
Right.
Just to get the oxygen out the first time.
Right.
And then just leave it under pressure for ideally at least a week.
Okay, and then you could do the other keg, because we have 2 kegs, right?
Well, you can't be drinking out of. If you're forced carbonating, you can't be drinking because you only have 1 CO2 connection.
Right.
But you can get a little splitter and another one of these ends, and then you can actually have two beers going.
But in my case, if I didn't have a splitter, basically what I'm doing is hooking up one to pressure in the fridge for drinking from that point on.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And what do you do with the rest of the wort? Is it just sitting still in the fermenter?
No, the rest of the wort is in the other can that's sitting next to it, but not getting pressurized yet.
Correct.
Oh, you've just blitzed it a few times to make sure there's CO2 on top of it, but it's not getting carbonated.
Right. It's flat, but it's archived.
It's archived. Got it.
Okay. All right. It's in the bin. Yeah. Right. Okay.
Anything in here. You could put water with some fruit and have sparkling water in 5 days, or a hard cider, or root beer,
or
cream soda.
Yeah.
Orange soda.
Cream soda. Yeah. Get a bunch of half and half and put in there and carbonate
root beer,
it.
Yeah.